I am calling the Human Resources Committee meeting to order on Monday, May 13th, being at 4:30 with a quorum present. We will start with number 1, approval of the 4/8/2019 minutes. Wow, that seems loud. We have a motion and a second by Neil. All in favor? Aye. Number 2, Human Resources Report for April.
I'd be happy to answer any questions on the report. It was relatively straightforward.
Let's see, just one quick one. I noticed that we've got, so far this year, 15 workman's comp claims. Is that par for the course, or is that high or is that low?
I would say it's par for the course or maybe a little bit high. Last year we had kind of a rough year for workers' compensation, and unfortunately we're staying on kind of that trajectory.
Okay, if no more questions, we'll put that on file. Number 3, discussion and possible action on the fleet safety policy.
We've got a number of policies before us today, and our Fleet Safety Committee has looked at all of these policies. They were being updated largely because it had been approximately a decade since we had taken a look at them, so there were just some very minor updates for the policies. A couple of the policies had OSHA regulations that had changed, so the policies needed to be updated to reflect that. But in the case of these policies, what we did was Ann Keenan on my staff took CIVMIC model policies as well as OSHA recommendations in our existing policies, melded the 3 together, then our Fleet Safety Committee reviewed all the policies, and then we have the final draft versions here before us today.
I'll just, how is one Fleet Safety Committee organized? This pretty much through Public Works, or how does that, I mean, we have a special organization thus that takes care of this?
We have a committee with representatives from every department that has fleet vehicles. So DPW, water, sewer, transit, fire, police, the mechanics from the fleet are there, someone from HR is there, and someone from legal is on that committee as well. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we can have a motion to accept what's in front of you. Correct?
Yep.
Okay, motion by Gisselman, second by Herbst. All in favor? Aye. Onward. Discussion of possible action on the Hot Works policy. If it looks good, we can just have a motion and move them through. Oh, you want, maybe you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Sure. I mean, the process used to update the policies was the same for each one of the policies. This particular Hot Works policy, to my knowledge, didn't have any OSHA updates. It was just a provisional review to make sure that it was up to date with our current procedures. The same committee reviewed the policy. Yep, actually the same committee reviewed all of the policies before us today.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second by Martins. All in favor? Aye. That has passed. We'll go on. Discussion and possible action on the work zone traffic safety policy.
This policy, again, we used a CIVMIC model policy combined with OSHA regulations and our previous existing policy. CIVMIC actually has a pretty rigorous program to make sure that traffic safety is up to date. One of the CIVMIC representatives, when he's in the area, he always makes sure and checks on our work crews, and we've always gotten very good feedback as far as for traffic and work zone safety regarding this. So we just updated this policy because it had been quite a while since we put fingers on it.
So the procedures that we do have, because I noticed that when we do are in this, especially in the streets, you know, there's a certain amount of distance between pulling over and that type of thing. So all of those are pretty much followed every day, pretty much by our street crews.
I've always gotten some very good feedback regarding it, so, and HR has not received any complaints for violations of this policy, so it's my understanding that we do a pretty good job on this. But we want to make sure that the policy is properly documented so everybody knows what's expected, so that our workers can stay safe out there.
Great.
I'll move to accept.
Thank you.
You second?
I'll second that.
Second by Herbst. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, onward. Discussion of possible action on the asbestos safety policy. Do we still have asbestos?
Yeah, unfortunately, there is still asbestos out there. So yeah, this was another policy that we just wanted to make sure we were compliant with OSHA standards. So we gave it a review, as well as the DPW department and all of the other departments that might encounter those materials had an opportunity to review the policy.
And all is well, nothing's changed?
I don't believe that this one had some OSHA regulations. It was the power industrial truck policy and the crystalline silica policy that OSHA has recently changed some standards on.
I'll move to accept that.
Okay, second by Neil. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. And discussion and possible action on the crystalline silica policy.
As I mentioned previously, this policy has been affected by some recent OSHA regulation changes. The dust that comes up when in construction projects is something that's cause for concern for employees, and OSHA has recently changed the amount of exposure and the appropriate protective equipment necessary based upon those exposure amounts. So what we've done is updated this policy to make sure that we're compliant with those changes.
I'll continue. So where do we encounter crystalline silica? I'm not familiar with.
You know, and I,
Sawing.
yeah, I believe it's when you're sawing cement, and that almost like stone dust is kind of where it comes into play, although I will admit that I am also not an expert in silica.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay. Okay, second by Martins. Okay, all in favor? Aye. That passes. Okay, discussion and possible action on the power industrial truck policy.
Power industrial truck policy is another item that has some recent OSHA changes, and they've also flagged this as an item that they're going to be paying particular attention to this year and in future years. There are forklift trucks and other vehicles of that nature are a power industrial truck. So that's the type of thing that we're talking about in this policy. Every year OSHA picks out particular items that they're going to have kind of be a stickler on, or they flag for attention, and this year this is one of those items.
Has there been a problem in the past, or have the trucks pretty much passed OSHA standards?
As far as I know, we've remained compliant with OSHA standards. I do believe we're looking at purchasing, to be honest, I don't know how many trucks the city even has. I do know we're looking at purchasing another one, but we have not had any OSHA violations to my knowledge on any of these topics.
Excellent. I have any questions?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion by Gisselman,
No,
second
second
by
it.
Martins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's the way to do it. Okay, future agenda items.
Madam Chair, saw a email message recently from a city employee of long tenure who, I don't remember exactly the particulars, but because of the time of year of their hire date or whatnot, it in their eyes seemed to be resulting in some strangely unbalanced pay between that person and others who have, been around a short while. Hadn't seen any kind of, response to that or solution to that, so maybe that could be something that we can revisit in a future meeting. kind of get into the details of it. It's not on the agenda, so I can't really discuss it today, but as a future agenda item, it'd be nice to kind of be up on that. Just want to make sure nobody, if at all possible, is kind of getting the short end.
I'm not sure that I always receive the emails that go out to council members, so if you still have it and could forward it to me, I can make sure that it's agendized appropriately.
Okay.
Thanks.
I hope I do.
I have it.
Okay.
Right, well, I think this is in conjunction with the 2020 budget. You know, I think this is with regarding to option 3 that we had talked about earlier in the year, and I think as we prepare for the 2020 budget, we'll again be looking at that, because I think that what this person was referring to was the delicacy of some of the inadequacies of option 2. And I think as we go forward into the budget season, I think that we need to pay attention to that letter, and she was not alone in a lot of other senior staff was caught up in this dilemma, and I think we should be resolving it. So I'm just carrying on with what Tom is reflecting on, but I think that boils down to option number 3.
A couple items that we have been working on for future agenda items. I can't promise that they'll be ready for the next meeting, but the city staff continue to work on the revision of the social media policy. I was hoping to get it today with all the other policies, but I just didn't have time. And I know Ann's been working hard on it as well. We're also looking at a review of longevity as per previous request from this committee. I just don't have any recommendations to advance yet, but those are things that are still on my tickler.
And also, I'm sure that, we've had our first meeting of the new Inclusivity and Welcoming Committee. And no doubt at some future meeting, the topic will be raised about our balance or lack thereof of representation in city employment positions. So some way to address that in a future meeting, too, would be a good thing on the agenda.
That's it. We'll take a motion to adjourn. Thank you. And second, all in favor? Aye. We're all adjourned. Thank you.